Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Foliage. I hope you guys are fine and are safe. So guys, today we are going to be talking about a very beautiful flowering plant called as French Marigold. Now you might notice that unlike other marigolds, the flowers of these are very small, and even the shape of the flowers are very different. The flower color is almost orange to reddish in color, and they are slightly tiny and they are not round like how our regular marigold flowers are. So not only the flowers are beautiful on this plant, but it's extremely easy to take care of this, especially if you're a beginner and you want to start with some flowering plants. I would advise you go with this French marigold because it's extremely easy to take care. So let's go step by step. What are the requirements? Let's start with the pot size. Now guys, ideally you can go with a pot size around 5 inches to 6 inches. A plastic, terracotta or even a concrete pot would work out really well, but do not keep it in a very huge pot because these guys tend to like a slightly smaller pot. So now talking about the soil, I use the same soil mix which I prepare. I have put the link in the description below. You can check it out. So the soil basically has to be well draining, should be loose, porous, and should maintain a slight moisture. That's the reason why we're using some coco peat, so that we can always maintain an even moisture in the soil. Now guys, remember, please do not let this plant or do not let the soil dry out completely. You have to maintain slight moisture. So ensure that you water it regularly. Probably you can water it every alternate day, or depending upon your climate, if your soil tends to dry faster, then you'll have to water it every day. But guys, ensure you maintain slight moisture. If you happen to see that 1 to 2 inch of the upper layer of soil is dry, go ahead and do complete watering until the water starts passing through the drain hole. Now guys, let's say that if you have forgotten to water, please do not extend it. If at times, what I have noticed is, if you let the soil dry and if the plant is not watered for 2 to 3 days, let's say even for 4 days, then the complete plant will dry. And in most cases, after that, if you try to water it, the plant might not revive because it immediately starts to dry out. Now talking about the light, guys, please ensure that you give it a good amount of direct morning sunlight. If you're going to place it in indirect bright light, it will work out well, but the blooms and the flowering will be reduced a lot. Only when you give it morning direct sunlight, that's when you will have a lot of blooms and a lot of flowers. Because initially I had kept my plant in indirect bright light. There was little slow growth as well as there was not much blooms, but as soon as I moved it to direct morning sunlight, where it receives around 5 to 6 hours of morning direct sunlight, that's when a lot of blooms and a lot of buds started coming out on the plant. So apart from giving morning direct sunlight for 5 to 6 hours, there is another important thing that you need to do in order to get a lot of blooms and flowers, and that is feeding your plant. Now guys, marigold is a heavy feeder, which means that it requires a lot of nutrients. Of course, because it tends to put out so many flowers, it tends to consume a lot of energy, so definitely it needs a lot of food. Now, because this is an heavy feeder, I tend to use my compost tea, which is my liquid fertilizer. I use it every week. So I tend to feed my French marigold every week with liquid fertilizer. Now guys, please don't expose your marigold to direct afternoon sunlight, otherwise the strong sunlight will burn the leaves. As you can see, there is slight amount of burning on the leaves. That's because I had accidentally left it in afternoon direct sunlight. So please avoid afternoon direct sunlight, only give morning direct sunlight, and that will work out really well, especially for the flowers. So now comes the fun part. Now guys, remember I had purchased seeds from Trust Basket and I had told her I've never grown flowers from seeds. Now over here, what happened is I had a lot of dry flowers from the French marigold, and you won't believe I didn't do anything. I just opened the seed pod. There were seeds present in that. I didn't even let them dry, and I just threw them in the same pot where this plant is growing. And within 2 to 3 weeks, I think approximately within 2 to 3 weeks, I was able to see that the seeds have germinated and there are small seedlings. Now I was quite surprised because we take so much of initiative. We tend to take care so much of the seedlings. But over here, as you can see, I just opened it and randomly threw it in the pot, and they have started to germinate and grow into seedlings. And to be honest, I was not even sure whether these are going to germinate, because I just randomly threw them in the pot. I didn't even use a plastic to cover it, or I didn't even cover the seeds with soil. I just randomly threw them and they started to grow. So you can see how easy it is to germinate the seeds as well. I didn't even dry the seeds. I just plucked out those dead flowers and I just threw them into the soil, and it was so easy. The process was so easy and smooth that I didn't even realize that they started to grow today when I went to check on the plant, and I seen that the seedlings have come up. So it was quite easy to propagate or to multiply the French marigold. And here are some more seeds that were germinated and turned into seedlings. This pot is outside my gate. Again, over here I opened the seed pod and dispersed the seeds in this pot, and you can see all have been growing very well. And these fine little leaves that you see are of rain lilies, which I had also sowed the seeds, so both have been growing well. So guys, I hope that this video on French marigold was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep planting.